ET Exclusives, where we bring you insightful conversations with industry leaders who are shaping the future of education. And today we have the privilege of speaking with Ratna Viswanathan, a visionary in the field of education and the driving force behind Reach to Teach, a social impact organization dedicated to enhancing teaching and learning outcomes in government schools. Ratna, thank you so much for joining us. It's such a pleasure to have you for this interview.
Thank you, Yasmin. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. So let me tell you a little bit more about ET Exclusives. At ET Exclusives, our goal is to delve deep into the minds of thought leaders who are making a significant impact in their fields. In today's rapidly evolving educational landscape, the balance between tradition and innovation is crucial for fostering holistic learning. Our conversation today will focus on shaping the future of education, bridging tradition and innovation for holistic learning. We will explore how Ratna's extensive experience has informed her approach to education, the challenges of aligning traditional practices with modern needs, and the opportunities that lie ahead. Ratna's journey is nothing short of inspiring. From a distinguished career in civil services to leading impactful organizations like Oxfam India and UNDP, she has consistently championed the cause of equitable access to quality education. Her belief in fostering teacher agency and creating a joyful, curiosity-driven learning environment has been at the heart of her work. Today's theme, Shaping the Future of Education, Bridging Tradition and Innovation for Holistic Learning, is particularly relevant as we navigate the complexities of modern education. So Ratna, once again, it's an honor to have you. Your journey in this sector has been remarkable, and I'm sure our audience members are eager to hear more about you. So tell me more about your journey. What key moments or experiences have shaped your approach to education, especially in terms of promoting equitable access?
Very frankly, Yasmin, equitable access is an issue that one has seen while being a part of the civil services. And since I was with the Comptroller and Auditor General's organization, so we actually audit the entire education sector as a whole, as far as the government of India is concerned. And that straight away gave you, a deep learning and insight into what exactly the education landscape was about as far as government schooling particularly was concerned, because government outlay was on government schools primarily. But having said that, I think what shapes my approach to education is probably my early schooling. The school that I went to did not focus so much on learning by rote as much as developing competencies amongst children. So we were assessed constantly on competencies. We were encouraged to ask questions. And as children, it's really important to be able to question because you're curious. You're naturally curious. You don't know things and you are exposed to new environments. So you will ask those questions. And I think both of these factors went a great way into shaping what I perceive as the need of the hour as far as education is concerned today. And very frankly, although we work primarily in government schools, there is a large number of budget private schools that, really require a lot more in terms of their focus on learning, on teaching, on systems. So it's a problem that spans various genres of schooling in the country today. Having said that, our focus is primarily on government schools. In India today, about 143 million children go to government schools. We work across 4 states, and so we're actually touching about 8.8 million children, which is only 6.2% of that population, right? So you can see where the need is and how huge it is. So whereas, I mean, we are privileged to be working in the 4 states that we are, the problem actually needs much larger solutions.
Absolutely, I think, and I think the work that you've started is already garnering a lot of appreciation and recognition. It's just that the numbers have to grow. We have to reach far and wide. The percentage from 6.2 has to go much more because that's where we create equity in education access. Because every student deserves an equal amount of opportunity to get the education that they deserve. So thanks for sharing that. And also, Ratna, my question to you is, What is the biggest challenge when it comes to bridging the gap between traditional education practices? And you did touch a little bit about that. What is the biggest gap according to you, and especially with the kind of needs that are evolving so rapidly for the 21st century learning? Maybe if you could share some examples of institutions or individuals who have successfully navigated this transition from the, old ways of learning to the new ways of learning.
Very frankly, Yasmin, the high-end schools, for instance,
Yeah.
where you have the wherewithal to give a lot more attention to children and are able to deal with individual requirements of children, possibly are in a space where they can do this transition in a quicker way than where the entire system is built on a tradition of rote.
Yeah.
Now, as far as government schools are concerned, the entire tradition so far has been rote learning, has been performance at the examination level. So learning is something that is not being tested anywhere.
Yeah.
What is being tested is your ability to read and retain, irrespective of whether you understand or not, and then spilling it out at the time of examination.
Exactly.
And uh, and this is something that you can't just blame the government, you can't blame schools, because parents are equally complicit.
Yeah.
Parents are the ones who are also quite focused on the fact that my child should do well, should get 100%. Give the child a break. You don't need 100% in grade 2 and 3 and 4.
Yeah.
You should leave children to burn when they need to burn, and not start putting them into tuitions in grade 1. I mean, the child's barely found its feet. Why on earth are you burdening that child?
Yes,
What are
I
you
think
going
that's
to
the biggest
add?
issue. Yes.
Right, in terms of quality of learning, by sending that child to tuition to stand first in class? If not, so what? Right? So
Yeah.
I think somewhere, but the current focus, the National Education Policy 2020 focuses a large component on holistic learning and
True.
learning by choice, and focusing on things beyond text and curriculum, and discussion debate based learning. The challenge lies in the fact that whereas it sounds great, the how of this is the challenge. Creating executable parts out of this is the challenge, right? Now, two things have happened. One is, I think, they have introduced the common university entrance test.
Yes, they have.
So now the focus on doing very well in the 12th boards is no longer something that needs to be emphasized, although there is still emphasis on it, especially for children who want to go on to private universities.
Yes.
But it does give wherewithal to a large number of children who want to go to government colleges to be able to move away, because you anyway have to deal with the CUET. So as a result, now you can more focus on learning, because if you understand, you will perform well at the CUET. And if you don't, you won't.
Yes.
Right. So the approach and focus on learning is something that can now be a part of the process, rather than pre-boards and boards no longer needs to be such a large focus. So I think that's a good step in a transition as a bridge to focusing more on learning rather than just performance at the examinations. Right.
But don't you think we're still nowhere in that case? It's a mindset change that's needed, right?
At, at
Parents
least
are
we've
not ready to accept
started.
it. Yeah.
We started. And
Yeah.
if parents come to the understanding that board performance is no longer key to the child gaining access to a good university,
Exactly.
then they will probably ease up the pressure on children. And
Yeah.
I have a theory, Yasmin. As parents, what we tend to do is we remove the onus of learning from the child and bring it to ourselves. Because what happens is, if a parent is constantly driving, the child feels that till such time as the parent tells me I'm free to do what else I want to do. The moment my mother or my father says, sit down and study, okay, now I need to sit down to study. Actually, the onus needs to rest with the child, to let
Yeah.
the child know that you yourself are responsible. If
Mm.
you don't do well, you face your peers, you face your teachers. I'm nowhere in the game. And that is something, and so the anxiety of parents leads them to actually take the onus away from the child to drive learning,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And that's where I think those conversations need to be had. And like you said, it is a change in behavior. It's a
Yeah.
change in thinking that needs to come in to actually make the new education policy a reality. Of course,
And
these steps are helping. The CUET is helping, taking the pressure away from board examinations is helping. But these are fledgling conversations
yeah.
and they will take a while to get there, but at least they've started.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, that's a very positive step, I must say. It will take some time because for centuries, our education system has been in a certain way, and change is never welcome. People take time to adjust to change. I think that's also one thing. Yeah. Another part here is education institutions also need to redefine their teaching methodologies, right? If they want to have this kind of a mindset where they focus more on learning outcomes, ensuring students are not just focusing on performing during exams, ensuring that they acquire both academic as well as practical skills and knowledge. According to you, how can that be done, and what should be the wake-up call for institutions who are lagging in this area?
Two things. One, of course, is I think we need to foster greater teacher agency. Today, what
Yeah.
happens is the curriculum is decided elsewhere. The syllabus is decided elsewhere. Even teaching plans sometimes are decided elsewhere. And they're handed over to a teacher, and the teacher is asked to teach, right? Now, a teacher, by dint of the profession they have been in, know enough. They don't have to be told what to do. That's number one. By removing agency, you also remove responsibility. Because today, then, I'm a government teacher, I get government salaries. Whether I teach or not, I will still be paid. What is my incentive to have skin in the game? Because there's nothing that's driving me. So, one of the things we've done at Reach to Teach, and particularly in the states that we work in, is focus a lot on teacher agency. And how we've managed to do this, it's difficult. It's much easier said than done. How we've managed to do this is we've introduced activities. We've introduced your regular lessons. It's not activities over and above your regular lessons. So your CBSE textbook, we've taken that textbook and within that textbook, created activities for maths, for science, for social studies, for English, within those textbooks, within the same CBSE curriculum. And as a result, what happens is, so children are curious. So the whole touch, feel, hear, see, do anyway excites them. But now, because teachers are now involved in the process, because they have to get children to do these things. And that can't be done academically from just reading a piece of paper, right? So they get involved in the activities as well. And you know this, why do we have management games? All of us love play at some level, right? So because of that, then the teachers are now getting involved because it makes them also an active part of the learning process, right? Now, to ensure that it's done in a standardized manner, because all our activities are linked directly to NCRT defined learning outcomes.
Yeah.
They're not random activities.
Hmm.
So just to make sure that they're rolled out in a standardized way so that that learning outcome is achieved, we have created student worksheets, of course, but very detailed teacher handbooks. It's almost like a DIY, right? So
Yeah.
that the teachers roll it out in a standardized format.
Mhm.
And we also have a helpline, a telephone helpline available that irrespective of if the detailed instructions, if they still have a doubt, they can call us and we respond within 24 hours. So it's not a helicoptering approach where you just go in, leave the design and come away. We are there, we're holding hands, we're sustaining, we're making sure the training happens. And we've seen the result in 18 months. So
Yeah.
now it's the child is learning. The child is not performing well at the exam just by mugging, because the moment it's linked to activity and learning outcomes, touch, feel, hear, do, you will learn, you will remember,
Yes.
right? And this year, for instance, in Arunachal Pradesh, the cabinet had asked that the performance of children at the board level go up by 10%. We have managed to get the 10th grade to come up above to more than 10% as opposed to last year, and the 12th grade students by 12%. How? Just by this. Activities, linking it to learning outcomes. So performance has gone up, but not by rote learning, but by actually understanding and comprehending what is being done because you've linked it to learning outcome. So it's not undoable. It is not difficult.
Okay.
You
And
know,
that's a great example, yes.
but here we were able to do this because the state was equally invested.
Yeah.
And we were embedded with the state education department, we could do it. So there needs to be buy-in from both ends for something like this to happen.
Absolutely. With great thoughts there, ma'am. I think, it has to become, the approach has to be top down and bottom up both ways. As you said,
Yes.
teachers need to get more agency specifically, and then changing the entire way on how people consume education is very important, where it just doesn't pass through them. It's something that they registers and remains with them for lifetime.
Yes.
And these are the kind of activities and ways of teaching that. And I think if all institutions and all education schools can, adapt this to in some manner, they will see these changes. So I know it takes time, but these are the steps that need to be taken forward. So thanks for sharing that. Also, you spoke a little bit about the NEP and how it has introduced some new, approaches to education. One of it is a multidisciplinary approach. So
Yes.
how do you think will this shift influence the future of higher education in India? And what steps should institutes take to successfully adopt this model?
Well, I mean, to successfully adopt it, they have to start looking at how they can change existing syllabus and
Yeah.
existing curriculum, because even today, the focus is highly academic. And so you have textbooks and you're driven by the chapters in the textbooks and the need to finish syllabus before the year is over, etc. The change has to begin at inception level where the curriculum allows for multidisciplinary learning. Like, for instance, when somebody goes to college, they have the wherewithal to choose, right? They
Yeah.
choose subjects. In some, for instance, IB schools, you can choose what you want to study. You can choose some science, some art, something practical. You're allowed that basket of goods to choose from. If
Mhm.
schools go that route and allow, and they say, okay, 5 subjects, but you choose which 5 subjects you want, and not say, stick to the traditional arts, science, commerce routes that we generally tend to stick to, you are already starting the journey towards multidisciplinary learning, right? And
Yes.
how is this helpful? Because a lot of children, particularly in government schools, do transition from school to work.
True.
Not everybody goes on to higher education. So there is a need, while approaching multidisciplinary learning, also to look at honing skills. From grade 6 onwards, you can start and build the difficulty levels as you go along. So whereas it can be concept driven at the 6th grade, by the time you're in the 10th and 12th grades, it should turn into something practical, something applicable. And like we are discussing amongst ourselves, we want to develop some metrics that will show that a child is now skilled but employable too. Just being skilled is not enough. Is that skill level enough to make you employable? Right? That's one. The second aspect is to focus on financial literacy. Unless I know something about basic finance, how do I negotiate my way around the workplace when I move out from school to a workplace transition?
Yeah.
Right? I should know, let's say I want to become an entrepreneur. Not everybody needs to be a job seeker. You can be an entrepreneur as well. I should know what a loan appraisal process is. I should know what kind of products are available in financial markets. I should
Yeah.
know what I can approach and what I can't. So basic financial literacy and skilling need to be as much a part, particularly in schools, like government schools, low resource schools, where children are not everybody is likely to transition to higher education.
Yes.
Right?
So what I hear from you is there's also a need to democratize and personalize education that ways, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and not
Absolutely.
Yeah. And how do you build for the future? Sometimes I think we live in our own la la land where we think what we're teaching is what is needed outside. But that's exactly the opposite. When the students come outside and try to join the corporate world, they realize they don't have the requisite skills. So that kind of a mismatch, that academia and industry collaboration, I think that's also really needed to be taken care of. Don't you agree with me?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think, at some stage during the learning process, children have summer breaks. Do
Yeah.
apprenticeships.
Yeah.
Do apprenticeships with industry, do apprenticeships with, for instance, you want to teach, do it with an educational institution, right? And so
Yeah.
you learn the practical. See, I think where our education really lacks is application.
True.
Whereas we learn academically and theoretically, the ability to apply is so limited, irrespective of whether you're coming out of the best business schools in the country, right? It's application at the end of the day that is important.
Yeah.
And we fall behind as far as application is concerned. So if you equip children with the skills to apply what they learn, you learn four things that you can apply it, is better to learn than learning 100 things you can't apply.
True. Yeah.
Right. So I think that is something important. And yes, the idea of apprenticeships, engaging with, and that too, don't limit yourself to any one industry. Do it across industry while you're still at the school level, because
Mm.
then it gives you a sense of, okay, so this is maybe what I want to do. Today, children don't know. I can give you an example. My daughter decided to do, graduation after the 12th because she's like, I haven't yet figured out what I want to do. This will give me another 3 years to think it through. I'm like, brilliant. So, the ability to decide well in time is sometimes an advantage.
It is absolutely. And what about the role of technology now? We're talking so much about digital literacy. How do you think, what strategies do you think are going to be most effective in ensuring that students and teachers, educators, everyone's prepared for it and they're using it to the optimum use?
See, one thing that has happened is because of COVID, teachers who previously had no exposure to digital medium
Yeah.
today willy-nilly perforce understand it,
Mhm.
right? Of course, there is this whole question about the digital divide, access to digital equipment, and all of that still holds good, right? Some of the states, like the very urban states, are very well connected with the internet. There are states, despite being urban, there's still parts of internet darkness in those states. And
Yeah.
the Northeast, where we work, internet connectivity is at best patchy, right? So focusing on digital, media that works both online and offline is important,
Yes.
so that children who do not have access to online means are still able to get the advantage of digital equipment to help them with their education, to democratizing the access to digital equipment is really important. Creating low cost equipment that children can access. This whole mobile phone story, we all know, especially in low income household, is with the head of the family.
Yes.
But you really expect a person who has four children to learn from that one phone? And more so when the father or whoever the breadwinner is going out, has that phone with themselves. They can't leave it to the child. So one
Yeah.
has to be realistic in one's approach and perception. And whereas, it's great to say, oh, ed tech, it can't be supply driven. It also has to be demand driven. And demand driven will only happen when there is access to digital equipment in a more equitable fashion, especially in low income households. Only then can we talk about, the whole next steps, the transition, the higher order thinking skills, all of that, provided equity comes in at least at a base level.
Exactly. So how do you think whose responsibility will it be going forward? Because the polarization will remain, I feel. But how can we make sure that education becomes more accessible to people where there's and digital education specifically?
I think that has to be a collaboration.
Yeah.
See, expecting government to provide everything is an impossible ask. The
Mhm.
government has already so many sectors and feels that it needs to be dealing with, right? So to constantly say that, oh, government has to provide is not realistic.
Yeah,
Government have their limitations, right? So then where will it work? We talk so much about CSR, we talk about, money being spent on the development sector. If there is intelligent and thought out collaboration between, the education sector, for instance, and the private sector, low cost digital equipment can be developed and distributed, right?
I agree.
It's not that it's impossible. The money that is anyway being spent on CSR, it has to be spent. So if there is an intelligent collaboration between, private industry and the government,
Yeah,
I think that would be something that would, to some extent, it's a tall ask. We're a large country and we
yeah,
have 143 million, like I said, already in government schools, and I'm sure that number is going to keep growing.
absolutely.
But let's begin somewhere.
Yeah, so true. And with India having the largest young population in the world,
Exactly.
we have to prepare them. We have to ensure that, the government has this mandate of becoming the global skills capital, for example. For anything that we aim for, and we have to start from the bottom. We have to start from the education.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's a great point. Thank you so much. The final concluding question for this interview, Ratna. Looking ahead, what innovations or changes in the education sector do you think will have the most significant impact on fostering holistic student development?
Big question. So I think it has to be, a combination of different things. One,
Yeah,
of course, looking at the learning route. Primary to all education is that children learn, not learn by rote and regurgitate, but learn in the real sense of the word as far as comprehension is concerned. So that is really important. And to be able to achieve that, it's not a difficult task. It can be done. Two, creating equity and access to digital platforms for children across schools is something that's really important. Three, getting children to learn application of what they learn is something that is imperative for children to succeed. So I think it's a combination of different factors. And of course, support from the environment. A child has limited agency.
yeah,
It is the environment that really supports the child. So, I move away from the statement saying putting the child at the center. At the center of what? It's the agencies around that foster that child. So it's the home, it's the
yeah,
community, it is the teaching fraternity, it is the environment, it is the support that comes from the government and other agencies.
yeah,
All of these collude to create a child that learns healthily and smartly.
yes,
That's one. Two, also, I think at some point, Yasmin, education is just one of the factors of social wealth. The other factor for social wealth is health. And
yeah,
it's really important that both these aspects of social wealth, health and education, if you really want that how many ever $1 trillion economy, it's really important that both of these measures of wealth also be given equal importance for us to even get there.
yeah. Great, such great thoughts, Ratna. Thank you so much. I think if we want to build our country for the future, these are so important. Firstly, how you look at learning overall. Is learning something that is more holistic, where people are learning and retaining what they're learning for their future? What modes are you making learning an opportunity for everyone to access? Is it equitable? Are you creating, ensuring that, if it's digital learning, are you enabling your people across the country to have the right kind of tools and platforms that are needed? I think overall, we need, we already have started doing this, but we need a lot more push towards these so that the mindsets are changed, so that people accept learning as something that is lifelong, which is not just exam related. And that's how the future of our country will be built on. So thank you so much, Ratna. It was such a pleasure talking to you. I think your dedication to creating an equitable and joyful, holistic learning environment is very, very inspiring. As we look to the future of education, it is leaders like you who will help us bridge the gap between tradition and innovation and ensuring that every child has the opportunity to thrive. Thank you so much for your views today.
Thank you, Yasmin. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you to our viewers for joining us on ET Exclusives. Stay tuned for more such conversations that shape the future of education. Until then, take care of yourselves. Bye bye.